Welcome to a very special episode of Go Lurk Yourself. Today, Krunnky and Cherry Cake are going to have a interview/discussion on what got them into Twitch, streaming, and to do a podcast. Hey, Cherry, what's up today?
Not much. I didn't realize we were starting so soon, so I'm just playing some PUBG. But let me just quit.
Surprise! No, go ahead. We'll start over when you're done.
Nah, it's fine.
What's the worst that could happen?
Aside from us having a conversation about nothing for about 2 hours. Yeah.
Hey, it worked for Seinfeld. We could do
it. Yeah. Oh, I see. I hate this because I was smiling when I said that, but you don't see that.
That's all right. We'll get to know it. That's why we're doing this, is so people that listen to the podcast know us, and we're not just some talking head idiots. Well, we're more than just those talking head idiots.
Well, I was going to say.
Hey, Cherry, how are you today? Or do you want to do a different intro? Or do you want me to cut you off while you're talking?
God, yes.
You love this open mic already, don't you?
Yeah, I really do.
Hey, Cherry, how are you today?
I'm fine, Krunnky. How are you?
I'm great. I streamed for 14 hours yesterday and was Mr. Super Dad all weekend by letting my daughter play video games and go on YouTube for most of the day.
Let's go. Oh, don't let Dee hear this.
By the time this comes out, it'll be long in the past. You won't care.
Oh, fair enough.
I even taught her how to make her own food a couple times.
Oh, my word.
Yeah,
She's getting self-sufficient.
She better be with Dad around. These are skills she's going to need.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that we're having this podcast today is some of the early feedback that we got was, hey, the interviews are great. We like hearing you guys talk, but we don't know anything about you guys, the hosts. So we kicked around a few ideas about doing, some canned interviews of each other, having somebody else come in and do interviews. And what I think we settled on, or maybe didn't settle on, but just kind of ran out of time and said, let's just have a discussion about it with open mic. So this format will be a little bit different than you're used to hearing. And if you have any feedback, positive or negative, please don't hesitate to send it to us. I can't stress enough how important it is for us to get feedback from you guys about what you like and what you don't like, what works and doesn't work. That said, Cherry, why don't we start out with you telling us the story of what brought you to Twitch in the first place and what made you decide, like, a thought process to start streaming?
Weirdly enough, I was just thinking about this earlier when I was doing some baking, just as an aside, because I was watching a stream on Twitch as well. And I don't have an interesting story. I really don't. Not like the others, like, to combat any kind of mental illness, or they needed a change of direction, anything interesting like that. I honestly don't know how I came across Twitch and actually going into streaming. I don't remember my first broadcast even. That's how bad my memory is.
If you don't remember, let's say what got you here, what is it about video gaming and specifically playing video games on Twitch that was attractive to you?
Well, I remember the first time I actually came across Twitch, which actually came from YouTube. There's a group of guys on there that I follow. I want to say they're quite well known in the UK. I don't know about America, but they're a group of guys called the Sidemen. And I think there's about 5 or 6 of them. And they're just like 20-something guys, aged guys that play video games. I got introduced to them by an old friend, and I started following them. And then a couple of them did Twitch streaming. I was like, "What's this? I've never heard of this before." So I checked it out, and it's almost a completely different concept to YouTube, because like you get instant communication with the streamer, whoever's streaming, and the game itself, and the other people that are in chat as well. And I started watching it, and I found it really, really, really fun to watch, more so than YouTube to a point. That's how I discovered Twitch, and then I just sort of digressed from there. And like people with hosting people and raiding people, and just that kind of branching off from the original streamer.
I know what you mean by the community feel. Like it's more of a hanging out on a Friday night with your friends playing video games than it is a, edited video that you
Yeah.
put out there and wait for someone to give you an up or down thumbs on YouTube.
Yeah. It's that it almost feels like it's more personal than YouTube. Obviously, like with the bigger streamers, you don't get that I'm trying to think of the word.
Personal touch feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they literally can't keep up with if they've got hundreds of people chatting. I mean, I go in some of the big streamers that I watch because I really like their content are Fighting Cowboy, Epic Name Bro, and I can't. I mean, they can't keep up with chat. Sometimes they read and it's like hit and miss of what they pick up on, and I don't know how they do it. But I had a host the other day of like 20 some people, and I was quickly overwhelmed.
It must be nice to get a host like that.
It was funny. Our one of the last episodes that we recorded was Anubis Cod. Actually, the last episode we published was Anubis Cod, and he was having computer issues and had me auto hosted. So I got this. I didn't see that it said auto host because I was PUBGing and not focused, and it said hosted you for 27 views. I'm like, where's my notification? Well, no notification came. It was an auto host. So I kind of flipped out a little bit. I was like, oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. This is an epic host. And he comes in and is like, dude, I'm so sorry. My computer crashed.
Oh, no.
But he ended up doing it a couple times. And some people stuck around because I guess he was having computer trouble. So it was inadvertently being an epic host. And he was, I actually hosted him at the end of the night because he got his stuff straightened out. And when I went back in there, he was kept apologizing up and down. I'm like, dude, it's totally cool.
Yeah,
I'll take your accidental auto host any day of the week.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so what about yourself then? What brought you to Twitch?
I kind of touched on this a bit in the Jack Packard episode 5, but just to flesh it out a little bit more. Years and years ago, like a lot of people, old people on the internet, found this website or this group on YouTube called Red Letter Media, and they did these like scathing Star Wars prequels reviews, and they captured this one review in particular captured something that was, friends of mine and I had discussed for years about what is it about Star Wars prequels that just didn't recapture the magic for me. Is it that I'm getting older and these are just like the original Star Wars. I'm just old now, so I'm a cynical old bastard. Or is there something tangibly different about them? And these guys are my age, or maybe a year or two older or younger. I don't really know. But they dissected like a science experiment this movie in a comical way, and like really. It was really endearing the way they did it. It touched on the analytical side of my brain. I've really dug into this review so much so that my friends got tired of me talking about it. But but I ended up following their YouTube channel and watching some of their other reviews, and then they started doing these web series, and I followed them. And a couple of the guys, they're like a troop of 5 or 6, maybe more than that people, and they started putting out these video game reviews as like a test. And 2 guys, Jack Packard being one of them and Rich Evans is the other guy, branched off and made their own YouTube channel called Previously Recorded Live. That's when I found out that Previously Recorded. And then they started talking about Previously Recorded Live, which is their Twitch channel. And I was like, what is this Twitch thing? And I found it. Someone linked it to me, I think, in one of their YouTube videos. And I went to it, and I remember having an old man moment going, wait, people sit here and watch video games on the internet? Just watch people do it?
Yeah.
So I started clicking around, and, like you will on Twitch, you're going to find some people who are just sitting there stone-faced to no viewers playing video games. It's like, this is stupid.
Thought you were going to say something else then.
What did you think I was going to say?
Face.
Oh, well, they might be that too. Maybe why they're not in the crowd, but
yeah.
And it was before I really understood the dynamic of what it meant to play and the pitfalls people can fall into. Not that I have it all figured out now, but I'm just way farther along than I was then. And when I watched Previously Recorded Live, they brought a little bit of that YouTube, and at least initially a little bit of their YouTube presence from Red Letter Media came over, dwindled down and morphed into its own thing. But they had 400 or 500 people watching at regular. So they weren't actually able to interact 100%. And then this was last fall when I finally got around to watching Twitch, and I started thinking about doing it. And I remember talking to Dee, my wife, about what it would take. And I really had it all planned out. And I don't remember what exactly came up. I was wrestling with it. Should I do it? Should I not? This is kid stuff, you know. No, everybody on there is a kid. No one's going to watch an old man play video games.
Yeah.
And one weekend or week, I just got a little antsy about it. I said, you know what? I think all inclusive, it was like $100 worth of stuff. And I play music on the weekends too. And I'd got a free or an extra $100 for playing a gig that wasn't playing. You know what? I don't have plans for this money. I'm going to take a big swing. If I don't like it, if I hate it, I'll sell the crap back on eBay. I bought a webcam, a green screen. I made my own green screen and bought a couple of lights. And I think that's all I had initially. I may have got an Elgato later, but I streamed PC off the bat because it was like the lowest cost of entry. And I'm already a huge PC nerd. I love playing PC games. So that wasn't I already had that cost. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah. Just thinking about it now, when you were talking about getting started and actually setting up the stuff, I think if not the first broadcast I did, now that I think about it, I think was from actually my PS4. I think I was doing like, it might be COD or FIFA with some friends.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen you play FIFA. I think when I first saw you streaming, I think it was in February, maybe.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this the other day, and you said it was about, what, 6 months, maybe more?
Yeah, something like that. I'm trying to remember the first game I saw you play, and I honestly couldn't tell you. It might have been Zelda.
Oh, yeah, because I think you remember it was, I was playing Link to the Past, and it was the first one that the first time I ever played it. So I don't know if were you just looking around for some Zelda action?
Yeah, I remember when I first started streaming, I was playing NES games, and I was getting ready for the Switch to come out, and I thought I had this grand scheme because no one's going to think of this. I'm going to buy a Switch. I'm going to play Zelda Breath of the Wild because no one's going to buy that game. It's Nintendo. No one's going to do it. And yeah, that was my first learning experience. But yeah, I would think I was searching for Zelda games, and I was really like in getting ready for a Breath of the Wild. I sunk my teeth into Zelda 2 again for the first time and since I was a kid, and I was like, you know what it's like to go back and play the games from your youth. It's nostalgia wrapped up in the fun and excitement of streaming on Twitch for the first time. It was really an exciting time. In fact, one of our good friends who we'll have on a future episode, maybe even an episode that plays before this, depending on the release schedule, is Gorby. He has a podcast. One of the reasons that we even started this was we know Gorby, and he really helped us, you know, talk up the process and help us understand what it's like and what we need, and kind of guides us. So it's all his fault when the podcast is terrible. You guys can send him a message at Gorby AK on Twitter.
Nice.
But he actually advertised my Twitch stream, and I was listening to that episode the other day, and for some kind of feedback that he was giving me. And at the end of the episode, he's like, "You could go watch Krunnky speedrun Zelda 2." I'm like, I have never speedrun Zelda 2. I was thinking about trying.
Yeah, there's a challenge for you in the future.
Exactly.
I remember at one point that we were talking about doing randomizers in A Link to the Past, and we were doing races on that, but something that we never got around to.
I think, yeah, you and I both were like not familiar enough with the game to even like start dissecting it into randomness.
No, not at all. No.
I played that game like back the summer it was released, because if we haven't established it by now, I'm old. And I think I was 14 or 15 when that game came out, and I was super looking forward to it because I loved Zelda 1 and 2. And I played it. I got it on like a Thursday or Friday night. It was during the summer break when I got it. And I think I didn't get it like right the day it came out, maybe a couple weeks later. And I played it all, like I got it home that night and I started playing it. I played it till the sun came up. I think I took a 2 or 3 hour nap, got up when my mom was away at work, and finished the game all in one, like basically 1 or 2 sittings. And I don't remember any of it as a result.
Oh, what? Have you not played it since then?
Nope.
Oh, man. See, this is going off on a tangent, but this was a debate while I was playing it. I was like, I had quite a few Zelda fans in watching while I was playing it, because the first time I played it, I know like done it before, so they were giving me advice and tips and stuff. And as I was playing it, I was like, this is all right for a Zelda game. It's pretty good, but it's never going to be my favorite. And then a whole discussion in chat just came about, like, oh, why is it not your favorite? Wow, it's awesome. And I was like, calm down. This is the first time that I've played it.
What, rabid Zelda fans were those?
Oh my God, I know, yeah. The first time that I played it, and secondly, the first ever Zelda game, which will forever be my favorite, I played was Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. And it will always be that one that will always be my favorite, closely followed by Ocarina of Time, purely because it was the first one that I played.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why Nintendo and Zelda games and Mario games, those guys get somewhat of a pass from me and people of my generation, is because of that nostalgia wrapped up. If you look at it objectively, A Link to the Past was stunning and amazing for its time because the exploration level was there. You know, is it good or bad game design that you don't know where to go a lot of the times in that game?
Mm.
Well, at the time it was great, but there's a lot of modern conveniences of gaming that we take for granted today that, you know, that are not present in that game. And when you go back and play it for the first time today, you're like, wait, how did anybody know what to do here?
Yeah, that was one of the areas that I got stuck in when I was playing it for the first time. When you have to port between the light world and the dark world, and you know, you can go certain places in certain worlds and not in others. The area changes depending on what world you're in, and sometimes it wasn't clear to me where I needed to go. But you can look at it from a different view, as where that is great game design because it's not linear.
Right. Now imagine going back in time and playing that game for the first time with no internet available.
I think I told you this before, but I'll tell you again for the sake of the podcast. But I remember when we got the Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, and my sister was the first one to play it because it was her Game Boy, and she got stuck. I think it was on the end boss. And obviously, like you say, at that time, the internet wasn't around, so you couldn't go and Google it. You couldn't go and look up a guide. So she ended up ringing the Nintendo helpline. I think there was a specific helpline. I know.
There still is, actually. There still is.
Is there really? Oh, nice.
The same number, if I read it right, last time I saw the article, it's the same number's been in operation since like 1985 or something.
No way, really?
At least in the States. We have 1-800 numbers for toll-free here.
Yeah.
Speaking of tangents, I think we're going to go off on a lot of those today. Talking about not having the internet, when I first was able to get a Nintendo, my friends at school were talking about this game called Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!
Oh, and yeah.
If you've never played it, that game is littered with little hidden strategies. There's a boss in there called Bald Bull that you can punch him in the stomach when he does his charge and get an instant KO. But the timing is pixel perfect. And we were on the schoolyard, at recess which is, us talking about Nintendo games in general. But I remember specifically that game and other games like it. We would talk about the strategy and the secrets, and some of that's still there on web forums and whatnot, and discussions, or like we're hopping in Discord or in someone's Twitch channel. Some of that's still alive. Just today I was watching Jessie Smith 103, your sister-in-law, play Dark Souls, and she had I had to sit back and be quiet. She had 2 or 3 people in there that were giving her really good advice, but they were respectful by not giving her spoilers, but just giving her little hints to keep the frustration down.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the upsides and downsides to when you're on Twitch. Sometimes if you don't outright specifically say that you don't want spoilers, you can get people coming. Sometimes it's not ill-intentioned. They're purely trying to give advice because they want to help you. They want to see you progress, but it can be taken the wrong way where it is classed as spoilers. So there's a fine line.
I'm going back right now and playing all this, replaying Demon Souls. Not replaying it. I'm playing it for the first time because it's the only one I've never finished. And I was having a stream the other day where my PS3 kept resetting, so I lost a bunch of the Demon Souls viewers. And I got to this point in the game where I didn't know where to go. And I don't care about spoilers at this point other than, major story stuff. And I'm like, guys, help me. Where am I supposed to go? And for the first time since I've been playing it, there was nobody there. It was really late at night. everybody had gone, and I was like, well, I guess I'm done for now because I don't know where I'm going. And I'd spent 45 minutes just wandering around in circles trying to find the way to go, and I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, no. What, did you give up in the end then?
I think I had people that wanted to play a different game, so I either stopped or I switched over to PUBG. I don't remember. I had a really long stream yesterday.
Did you were saying you had some issues with your PS3? Did you sort it out?
Yeah, I took it back to GameStop and got a different one.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a royal catastrophe. I mean, I went to GameStop and I got a PS3 and Demon Souls, and I got Ni no Kuni for D to play. Excuse me. And she was not having any problems with Ni no Kuni, so I thought maybe it might be the disc. Cleaned the disc. Then the controller wouldn't work. I took it back because it was pulling to the left, and then they gave me another controller and it was pulling to the right.
Oh man.
I famously tore that controller apart on stream for half an hour and repaired it while everybody was watching.
Best stream ever.
Yeah, I got 2 subscribers that stream. And
yeah, you did.
It had nothing to do with the controller. I think it was just because I was cantankerous and being an old man and bitching about it the whole time.
It was fun to watch. It was interesting.
So I did that. And then the PS3, like I believe it was a hard drive problem from my limited computer working experience, because whenever it would go, or a disk reader error, because whenever it would go to load a zone, like Demon Souls, I know from playing Dark Souls, has like these sections, and when you walk between them, it's supposed to like seamlessly load the new area in front of you and leave the other stuff behind you there, and it would crap out. It would like start stuttering real bad. The audio would get really bad. So I took it up to GameStop and swapped it out, and it ended up being okay because they gave me a $60 credit for a free game for all the hassle that I went through. Because I was like, hey,
wow,
I'm not complaining. I said, it's just really frustrating. I'm not mad at you guys. I know you know, I'm buying a refurbished PS3 from a refurbished center. I know the chances are pretty slim of me getting one that works.
But do they not test them before they take them in?
They do, and I think that's why the nature of this error, it didn't show itself until an hour or 2 in, because it took,
okay.
You had to let the system run, and you had to actually game and have it load content. And I don't think they might test it, but they probably don't have somebody sit there and play Demon Souls for 4 hours and see if it works.
No, I think they turn it on, make sure it works, and then that's about it, isn't it? Really, about 10 minutes worth.
Yeah,
at least that's what they do here anyway.
They probably have. I mean, just me spitballing here. They probably have some kind of stress test software that they run on it.
Okay, there's just something that occurred to me there. This, like, going away from what we were just talking about. We were talking about old school games like A Link to the Past, and that obviously you played it when you were younger. Just out of curiosity, do you remember the first game that you ever played?
Well, I don't know. The 20s was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Maybe Cup and Ball on a string.
Oh, okay. It's one specific video game.
Let's see. So it would have had to have been in the early 80s. I'd have to Google it to be sure, but I want to say it was either a Pac-Man or a Donkey Kong, or maybe it was even like Galaga. So
wow.
The city that I live near, on the side of town that I lived on, we had a big mall, and I can remember at a young age, my adopted father would be like, "Hey, let's take $10 and go to the mall and play in the arcade for a few hours." And I mean, that was like probably the seed that planted my love for video games for my whole life, is those moments, because that was like this magical. I mean, wait a minute, we're gonna go do the best thing ever for 2 straight hours, and all it costs is $0.25 a pop.
Yep.
And it was amazing. We would go in there, and some of the games, because I don't think I can narrow it down to which one it was first, but some of the games I remember loving to play there. The Star Wars wireframe game with the trench run. I played a lot of Galaga and Pac-Man, Donkey Kong were my big ones. And then I also played, there was a laundromat that my dad used to take us to that had the Popeye game. I've never seen it before or since. And they also had a copy of the first Street Fighter, which is rare that anybody in the States had that, but we had one.
Wow. I feel like I might need to look these up, because I'm impressed that Popeye had a a game.
Yeah, I mean, I got to take off my Nintendo nerd hat sometimes, but Nintendo was actually trying to make that Popeye game for the company that ended up publishing it. But when they made Donkey Kong, the Popeye game got re-released because of the success of Donkey Kong, if I remember correctly.
What did you have to do in it?
Popeye had to go get the spinach and beat up Bluto and save olive oil.
Oh, fair enough.
And avoid, crap that doesn't make any sense. A lot of times in the 80s, video games didn't make a lot of sense because what they would do is they would have like a game idea and then they would slap a character on it. So, like Qbert is famous for just the random weird snakes and items and the weird noises. It would be like they took that game and just slapped Popeye's face on it. Just weird stuff that doesn't make any sense in the context of the characters, but boom, there you go. It's a video game.
Speaking of Qbert, I don't think it was like as big of a hit over here as it was probably in the States, but what was the point of the game? Because I never really understood it.
I think the thing that drew people in with Qbert is this is a time of 2D gaming. So they used isometric view, stacks of pyramid blocks to make it look like it had some depth to it. And you basically had to start at the top and you had to hop your way down and up and turn all the colors of the squares a certain color to complete the stage while avoiding the enemies on it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's kind of like Pac-Man. Just eat all the dots, but don't get killed by the ghosts.
Right, okay.
This was the 80s, man. It was simpler times. We didn't have all these fancy 3D graphics. What about you? What was the first game you can remember playing as a kid?
Honestly, the first one that comes to mind, we also went to arcades, but it wasn't like an everyday occurrence. We didn't really have them. I don't think we really ever had them in our town. But I had grandparents that lived over the other side of England, and it was like a tourist kind of resort, not a resort, but a tourist town. So a lot of things, it was like on the beachfront, you go to the arcade, you go to the, go on the roller coasters, all that kind of stuff, go on like donkey rides on the beach, which is a classic British thing to do, get some ice creams. And
like legitimately you rode donkeys on the beach?
Yeah, that's the thing.
I don't know why that's so funny, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's true. It still happens today.
I believe you. It's just such a culture shock. I don't know, because I live in a rural state in the Midwest. Donkeys are just some asshole animals that you keep on your farm.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't even think of. It sounds great. Let's have some ice cream and ride on one on the beach.
You haven't lived until you've tried it, Krunnky, I tell you.
Oh, I've ridden donkeys before.
What?
But anyway,
the animals? Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I've ridden a donkey before. I grew up on a farm. It was nothing for me to run around and jump up on a horse or a donkey and just try to tame it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, yeah, imagine that, but just on a beach.
With ice cream.
Yes, yeah. I think there's some old baby pictures of me, like with ice cream all over my face.
Okay, you'll find links to these pictures in the
bottom. Oh, no. No, I don't know where they are. Oh, yeah, so my point was, when we used to go and visit our grandparents, they would take us to the pier, which is basically, a pier is. It's like a long extension from the beach itself. Like
so when you put your hands over your eyes and look out far.
Moving on.
Just let those jokes fall flat when they're terrible. I'll just edit them out.
No, that one has to stay in. That was such a dad joke. Yeah.
Hey, well, to be fair, I am a dad.
Actually, yeah, I can't dispute that one, can you?
It comes with the territory. They give you the card and they give you the list of terrible jokes to annoy everyone with.
Huh, man.
It's a pretty exclusive club. Like 90% of America or of the United States, actually, the world is in it.
Yeah, I'll leave you to that one. You that's an exclusive club you can enjoy by yourself. Anyway,
moving on.
Yeah. So, yeah, my grandparents would take me to the pier, and they would be along with my brother and sister, and they had arcades on the pier as well. So, I imagine the first experience that of computer games or video games at least would be probably something in the arcade, but I can't really remember what. Arcades were, I don't know if they were sort of coming to an end by the time I grew up enough to understand what they were. But obviously, you're a little bit older than me.
Couple years.
Yeah. So aside from that, I think the first instance that I remember of video games was when we had a couple of consoles, like really, really old school consoles when I was younger, which one of them was the Commodore 64, and one of them was the Amiga, and I can't remember which one came first. You probably know.
Commodore 64 was released first, and the Amiga, for those not in Europe, is the Sega Genesis. Is that right?
No. Sega Genesis, the Mega Drive.
Oh, my fault. The Amiga, the Amiga was like a disk-based PC engine system. Is that right? I never had one.
I want to say yes.
Did you put cartridges in it, or like did you have floppy disks, or how did it work?
I think it had floppy disks.
Yeah, I think I know which one that is. Yeah, all the old school gaming nerds are like raging at their headphones right now. You idiots! You don't even know what the Amiga is.
Oh my god! So yeah, for the Commodore 64, I do remember. I specifically remember the loading screens that they had because I remember being mesmerized by all the fancy colors that were on there. It was just. I remember, God, this is so sad, but I remember one of my favorite ones was like, it was a green and a black, like loading lines on the screen. They used to like move up and down horizontally. I just remember being completely enthralled by that because mint choc chip was my favorite ice cream. So that's why it was my favorite. Yeah.
This loading screen tastes so good.
Yeah, that was a mindset of like a 5-year-old at that time.
Hey, there's no reason to be sad about that. I mean, we're all here playing video games on Twitch and watching video games on Twitch because we love the bright lights and flashy colors and funny sounds and hanging out with people.
Yeah. So I think the Commodore 64 was probably my first instance that I specifically remember of video games. Anyway.
Were there games in particular that you played that you remember, like the first couple ones?
The first one that I do remember, I don't think I played it because I think I was too young at the time to actually grasp the concept of it. But I do remember my sister playing it. I always forget the name of it. I want to say it was like Dynamite Eddie. It was like this little guy that you had on a motorbike. It was almost like an angled top-down view, and you had to ride around on a motorbike and go and collect. I think go collect pieces or upgrades for the motorbike and for the person, and you had to do like various little tricks and like balance the motorcycle on like a beam, or I remember there was like a roller coaster track that you used to have to go around, but I do remember it being incredibly hard.
Yeah, like old school games, because they were made for an arcade that were supposed to consume your quarters. They used to be incredibly difficult, and I think some of that carried over when the console started. I know that, and they didn't have enough time to be able to make the game super long. So in order to stretch out a short game, they would just make it incredibly difficult. You'd spend a lot of time playing it.
I'm just trying to find the name of this game because it's not Dynamite Eddie anyway. Not that much.
Oh, okay.
It's Action Biker.
Action Biker, and it was on Amiga?
That was on the Commodore 64.
Commodore 64. Now, am I thinking right? Did the Commodore 64 have a little like flat disc for a D-pad? Or is that a different system that I'm thinking of?
Oh, as far as I remember, the Commodore 64 just had a keyboard.
Okay,
for a controller.
I might be thinking of ColecoVision. I had a friend who had some of the more odd, at least in my area, consoles that you didn't see everywhere, and he had he had the ColecoVision and the Commodore 64. He also had one of the early, not the Atari home console, but the Atari home computer with a disk drive in it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I used to play all kinds of crazy games over there. He had Spy versus Spy. The first time I'd ever seen that game was
I think I remember that.
Yeah, it was an epic 2-player fun game because you'd run around and set traps for each other, and it was like it has to be one of the first multiplayer home games I can remember going, oh, there's something fun to be had with other people. Because up until that time, like my first console was an Atari 2600, and I got a console, one joystick, and a couple of games. That's all I had. And you could, if your multiplayer experience was okay, now it's my turn.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do remember. When I was there was 3 of us. There was me, my brother, and my sister. And obviously, me being the youngest, I always got kicked to the back of the queue. So I was always spectating for the majority of the time anyway, unless they were busy doing something else.
That's why you're born to watch Twitch. You've been doing it since you were 2 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do remember specifically when we were playing on the Mega Drive. I think we got Road Rash.
That's classic.
See, you know Road Rash, and we were sat in my brother's room. My brother was playing it at the time, and then my sister and I were just watching him play it. I thought, I can't remember if it was like a 2-player or not. It might have been for the Mega Drive. I don't know.
Yeah, I know there's different versions of it. I can remember playing a 2-player version of it on the Genesis. Is that the Mega Drive?
Yes, that's the Mega Drive, yeah.
Yeah, here, you get on the back of my bike and hit this guy in the face with this billy
club. Actually, yeah, think about it now. That was a very violent game, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, you may be too young, well, in the wrong country to remember this, but in America in the late 80s, early 90s, there was violent video games were selling very well. Street Fighter 2 came to home consoles, and on the Genesis or Mega Drive, they had blood. When you'd hit someone, blood would splatter. But Nintendo famously changed it to green to avoid upsetting people.
Yeah, I do remember that, yeah.
And I remember all my friends made fun of me for having the Super Nintendo version. I'm like, I don't have a Genesis, God damn it.
Did they do it with Mortal Kombat? Or did they didn't they take the blood out altogether at one point?
Yeah, I think they did. I think Mortal Kombat was like at the forefront of that game. I mean, it took all the if you look back at the history of that era and the fight against censorship of video games, Mortal Kombat gets a lot of the hype. But there was a game that just recently got re-released. I think Gorby was telling us about it, called Night Trap, and it was one of those full motion Sony disc games that I think Genesis here had a disc system.
Oh yeah, was it what, like the Sega CD?
Yes, that's what it's called, Sega CD.
Yeah.
And they basically had all these like acted scenes that would be, it was menu-based game. You would figure out a mystery. You'd watch these pre-recorded things. Well, they had girls wearing, nighties and very insinuating circumstances and stuff. And so people were seeing that, wait, kids can just go into stores and buy this stuff. And it's, it wasn't porn, but it was borderline adult entertainment.
Was there like, I don't know if you know, but when were like age restrictions actually brought in for like gaming?
I don't remember because I didn't follow it that close then, but I want to say it was like in the early 90s.
I wonder if there's anything specific that triggered it, or maybe it was just like the growth of, I don't know, graphic.
Yeah, I think it was. I think, because this is really ridiculous, but there were like adult rated games on the Atari back in the day. And if you go look at it now, it's like, how could anyone find this offensive? Because it's just blocks. There's one famous one of it. I can't remember. It's about like a Wild West guy in India. And those like, the dude obviously has no pants on, and the girl has no clothes on.
I've seen that. Yeah.
What is it called? I don't remember.
I can't remember the name of it, but I do know which one you're on about. Yeah. Also, another one that springs to mind. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's called Leisure Suit Larry.
Oh yeah, my friends and I used to sneak around and get PC copies of that one. or late teens to early teens.
Oh yeah.
I remember they had the first form of DRM, not DRM, but like age restriction software I saw. I don't remember which one it was because I never had the games, but I would, my friends were like, "Yo, dude, you got to come see this." And you had to answer all these questions that only older people would know. Like, and this in the 80s.
Yeah. I remember watching, there was some kind of compilation video on YouTube that I watched not too long ago, and that one was on there. I think it was because it was like a top 10 of anti-pirated games. Like you were unable to pirate the game due to these measures, and that one was on there because you needed the booklet, or you needed something. I think it was specific to the box that it came in, that you could only answer the questions in order to get into the game.
I don't remember whether it was Leisure Suit Larry 2 or 3, but I was just of the right age when and EGA. You probably know what VGA is, right? The video format for before DVI cables. Yeah. There was an older one called EGA where they let you do like instead of 16 colors, you could do 30. I don't remember these numbers specifically, but quite a bit more fidelity in graphics. And I remember when we loaded Leisure Suit Larry, and it blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God, look at these graphics. That girl actually looks like a girl naked on that screen.
Oh God.
Hey, it's not my proudest moment, but give me a break. I was like 12.
Yeah, you were almost a teen, weren't you, I suppose? Teenage boy.
Well, you know. I remember one of the first times I watched you stream Zelda. I think I watched you for a day, maybe 2 days, and like 2 different sessions. I didn't watch it for a whole day, obviously, but I work remotely a lot, so sometimes I'll be doing a lot of number crunching, and I'll have a stream open to my right on my right monitor. We were talking about something, and well, the chat was going on, and I don't know, just out of instinct, because I'm a huge Simpsons nerd, I made some kind of Simpsons or Futurama reference, and you like totally keyed in on it, and I go, wait a minute, you know that obscure Simpsons or Futurama reference? Did we just become best friends? Question.
Oh yeah, this has become like a common occurrence, I think, between the two of us, like whoever's in each other's chat, whoever's streaming. But we will randomly just throw out like maybe just like 2 or 3 words, and one of us will instantly connect it to The Simpsons or Futurama.
Yeah, that's kind of like where this podcast, you know, where Cherry and I's friendship and this podcast and the idea to have a community network basically can be all traced back to Matt Groening. It's all his fault.
Yep.
Because now it's a game of who can subtly slip a Simpsons reference by, and the other one not pick up on it.
I will say you have had maybe 2, probably a few where you've mentioned them. I'm like, I feel like I know that. I feel like I should.
But here's the thing:
where it's from.
Like up until I met Cherry Cake, I was pretty sure I was the biggest Simpsons nerd out there. And then I realized soon into talking to her about it that, yeah, I got some work to do if I'm going to consider myself an authority on the subject, because she not only does she know the episode, she knows the entire plot summary. She knows the episode season number, the episode number, and the name of the episode. And that's the names I don't have them down unless they're very, very famous episodes.
This is within reason, because this is probably season 2 to about 7 or 8. That is, we were talking about this the other week, like the golden years of The Simpsons and how they've kind of gone downhill after that particular season. There was a documentary that you linked to me.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I think it's called The Day the Simpsons Died. It's it's 30 minutes, but man, and it's not even the most highest production value, and it could use some more editing, but the content is so good that I loved it, and I recommend it to anybody who likes The Simpsons to check it out.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the description so you guys can go check it out. But it comes down to one, they homed in on one particular episode where they feel like that was the breaking point, and where what you guys called Jump the Shark, which was the episode where Principal Skinner doesn't actually turn out to be Principal Skinner, and then the whole backstory is, created that he was in the war and the real Skinner died, or supposedly died, and he took his place, etc. And the argument that they make for it is really, really well written, well thought out, and well put across.
Now, to me, he will always be Armin Tanzarian.
God.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because to put it in perspective, I was like 12 years old when The Simpsons came out. And so I remember my mother getting upset because Bart would say hell or damn or bastard or something like that. And I'm like, my mom cusses like a sailor. And I remember looking at her going, really? This is the problem you have with the show?
Yeah.
And it's the counterculture and kind of the thumb in the eye to the traditional sitcom that made me love that show. And I didn't really, at the time, I wasn't, insightful enough or thought about it long enough to understand what I loved about the show. I just knew that I loved it because it was self-aware. The comedy and timing was genius. It has in fact, I think in that episode or that documentary we just talked about, they prove not the example I would have picked, but it was a good example nonetheless of what they call the comedy avalanche. And that's where you're not done laughing at the sight gag when the smart joke comes in, and then they do like 2 or 3 more after that. And
Yeah.
I really, I really have always appreciated that. There's a podcast I listen to by these comedians called the Sklar Brothers. They're twins comedians, and speaking of old, they're older than me by probably a decade. And they have a podcast. It used to be called Scarborough County, but now they've changed it to Dumb People Town. And it's those guys could do something as twins who are, basically hardwired to communicate on an instinctual level from birth. They have those 2 guys and another really funny guy, and they're masters of the comedy avalanche because they have been doing it their whole lives. And they cue off of each other like you've never seen before.
Yeah.
And they talked about the comedy avalanche too, and I was like, man, that's so razor sharp, and I think it's a big reason why I love The Simpsons, because to me, comedy is fun, and The Simpsons was just a fun thing to do all the time. Everyone got to tune in and watch it. And I did kind of dial it on the inside during that episode. I kept hoping it would come back from the brink after that Armin Tanzarian episode, but it never did.
There's nothing that, looking back now with the benefits of hindsight, the seasons that we grew up with, going into season 7 and 8, I've like comparing those to what they are now. When I was younger, when I was watching those, I felt comfortable enough to sit in a room with my parents and watch it and not feel uncomfortable with some of the jokes that they were producing. But now, if you look at the jokes that they're trying to put across but failing spectacularly at, I cringe at them. I really do.
The newer
it's not
ones?
something. Yeah, the newer seasons. Yeah, it to me it feels like it's trying too hard to compete with the likes of Family Guy, probably more recently Rick and Morty. Even I know that's like way off the scale compared to The Simpsons, but what else is there that's like that?
I know what you're saying, like all the Seth MacFarlane stuff. I mean, I liked Family Guy for the first couple of seasons. Like I really got into it, and I think it did sort of like The Simpsons did. It in an attempt to be more hyperbolic and to keep up in the ante and stay in popular. They writers come in and out. That happens. Producers change. That happens, and those have big effects on the comedy. But you've also got on a big network like that, you've got people coming in going, you got to get your ratings up, and you've got network heads putting their nose in. So this is all my I'm surmising this because I don't know, I have any inside knowledge to it, but I can see studio heads poking their heads in there going, maybe make him do a little bit more of this, and we're going to get a producer in here who says he's going to do that. And it just it stinks of meddling and, like you said, trying too hard.
Yeah, one of the things that annoys me, which is also covered in the documentary, I think it was that documentary, might have been another one that I watched after, but they went on to talk about the celebrities that were actually involved. And you can tell from the ones in the earlier seasons, they didn't bring the celebrity in to be the celebrity. They wrote specific parts for that celebrity and then disguised them as that person. Whereas the ones that the later seasons now, that they just seem to get any celebrity and wedge them into the story.
You can definitely see that. I mean, they're just playing themselves on there and not a character.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't show any creativity at all. It's just the sake of getting a celebrity.
I think, going back to the classic episodes, the Michael Jackson episode where he's uncredited as Michael Jackson was genius.
The only one that I will let slide is the X-Files one with Mulder and Scully.
Yeah, I think it was well written enough around the idea. It was basically an X-Files episode. It was more parody of satire of X-Files, actually.
Yeah.
Another one that they did really well, where is it called Lisa Gets an A, where she has a substitute teacher. Am I getting the name wrong? Where she's got the substitute teacher who ends up leaving at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah, I do know which one you mean, but I don't think it's called Lisa Gets an A. Oh no, hang on. Lisa Substitute. It's literally just called that.
Okay, Lisa Substitute. Yeah, that episode. You probably know this, being the fan, but that's actually Dustin Hoffman doing that voice.
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
uncredited. He wanted his name not in there, and it was back at the time when the idea of going on The Simpsons could be a risky, cheesy, hacky thing to do for a movie star. And now it's the exact opposite. Movie stars are like, yes, put me on that show, please.
Yeah.
Okay, crap.
If there was something that you would tell anyone to come to your channel, entice them to come to your channel, what would you tell them?
Oh my God.
Who knew this question was coming?
Certainly not me. Ties them to my channel.
Just gonna hang
I
you
don't
out to
know.
dry.
Yeah, I don't really have a spiel for this. I want to say that I'm a relaxed gamer, but really, I'm really not.
I don't know. Sometimes you're more relaxed than others. It just depends on the game and how you're feeling. You know, like every streamer. Every streamer's got their ups and downs. I had for a 14-hour stream, I had a really great stream for half the day, and then at the end of the night, I was getting cranky, and I probably, like a grown-ass adult, would have stopped playing, but I decided, you know what's better than that? Just push through it. That'll work.
Yeah.
And I got
Persistence.
I think it also tied to our performance in PUBG. We were having some struggles.
Oh, that conversation is for another day. So going back to your question, I tend to play like a variety of games. I have got recently into Mario Maker, which is such a fun game to play. I don't know whether it's fun to watch or not, but
I've come around on it. I know I told you when you first started streaming it that it stressed me out, but that was my inner 8-year-old. When I played Mario in like the 80s, you got to remember that's hardwired into my brain. I played it from when it was new, Super Mario Brothers. It would like pain me to watch other people play it because I played it so much that like when someone didn't make the jump, I felt it in my bones. No, you're almost there. And it would literally like stress me out to watch people play it poorly, or not poorly, but not do the input that my brain was telling me should be happening right now.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert by any means. Cherry is way better at Mario than I ever will be because I literally lost the patience to play it.
Yes, but on the flip side, you will always be better at Dark Souls than me.
Nah, you're going to get there.
No, I'm never touching that game with a bad ever again.
All right, it's September 3rd, 2017. I have it on record. Cherry says she's never going to play Dark Souls again. Noted for future reference.
We'll put money on that. That game completely broke me.
So I was watching Jess play it earlier, and she made it to Blighttown, killed Quelaag, and she was like, "Okay, I just need to get out of here. I just want to get out of Blighttown." And we're like, "Okay, all you have to do is climb back out of Blighttown." She's like, "Are you kidding me? Oh no!" So her and me and a couple of people in her streamer explained to her, "Here's what you got to do," and it's not easy to get back out of Blighttown. And we told her the easy way. And she was getting up there and falling some of the elevator deaths. It happens to everybody. This happens to everybody who plays a game. But she was on the verge of, she said, if I would have died right there and had to go all the way back down to Blighttown, I don't know if I would have made it. I think I might have cried. And she was like, there's no crying in Dark Souls. She goes, no, there definitely is.
Yeah, there is. I can attest to that.
It's one of those, this is one of the reasons I love Dark Souls is because it's a very bleak game, and some of these things that they do on purpose are amazing, but some of the things that happen on accident are absolutely amazing. She's in Blighttown, right? And she has to get out of there and find a bonfire so she can quit trying to make the attempt to get out over and over again. She finally figures out how to traverse the elevator, go up to New Londo Ruins, and then go up the other elevator to Firelink Shrine. Just by random coincidence, she happened to have not, because she's playing blind, doesn't know that if you don't kill Lortek early, he kills the bonfire keeper for Firelink Shrine. So she's like on the verge of tears, gets out of Blighttown for the first time in 100 tries, goes, oh, thank God I'm home. I'm at the Firelink Shrine. Gets there and the bonfire is not lit and she can't rest. And she's like,
oh,
are you kidding me? Are you kidding? That's the magic right there of Dark Souls, of just one little peek into the window of why that game is amazing, because it's a existential crisis game by the truest definition. And I think it's not very often you see a game pull that off as well as it has. And I think it's why it's still popular to this day.
Get wrecked, boy.
Anyway, Dark Souls soapbox off.
Mm-hmm. I'm you know what I feel about that game, how I think about it.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I mean, I had a friend of mine who watches my stream, and I've known for years before that, is Dama, and he and I were gaming friends from way back before WoW even. And I would, when I first found Dark Souls, I loved the game. I didn't like the game. I was like, everyone says it's good. I tried it. I got through the Asylum Demon after some frustration. I'm like, oh, that was kind of cool. And then I get to the next area, and I got frustrated and quit because I was in this fighting skeletons in the graveyard and died. I finally went on YouTube or somewhere, and people were like, hey, dummy, go to the aqueducts, and it's easier up there. I didn't even know where that was. So that was the first time I rage quit the game. The next time I go in, I get all the way up to Taurus Demon, and I died to him like 3 times. I'm like, this sucks. I have to fight all the way through Undeadburg to get the Taurus Demon. This is bullshit, and I quit again.
Mm-mm.
For like 24 hours. Then I watched a video, and I watched people like speed run it. I'm like, oh my God, if this guy can do it without taking a hit, I can at least give it a try. And I started running through Undeadburg without getting hit. I'm like, oh, okay. So sometimes you got to fight through. Sometimes you just got to say, fuck it, and YOLO this place. And that's what I did for a while. And I got to Capra Demon, and I was loving it. Like I was starting to get into it. And I got to Capra Demon. I'm like, oh, Capra Demon's hard. But there was no YOLOing it through lower Undeadburg because the dogs would corner you and put you into the wall. And Capra was amazingly difficult. So I did that for like 2 days, fought against Capra. I bet I died to him 50 times plus. And I raged. I was like, I'm over this shit. I'm over this shit. And I stopped playing it for months. And it wasn't until I found a YouTuber named Northern Lion, who I watched his playthrough, and he showed me it had been long enough that the pain had subsided about why I was in the rage had subsided, and he was, going on and on about his love for the game and talking about why it works so well. And I think for me, not everybody, but for me, the reason that the game works so well is that the hyper awareness that it's needed because you can die at literally any corner, and the planning and strategy in addition to the action is just a perfect mix. And in addition to the lore is not in your face. It's not over the top. It doesn't try too hard. And it really clicked after I finally beat Capra and I went down to the depths. I had white knuckle rage going on down there because around every corner, who knows what's going to be there. And it's dark and foreboding, and the atmosphere really sinks in and really creeps into your soul. But these are the reasons why I love it and why I will profess my love for that game till the ends of time. But my friend Dama was like, that game looks too hard. I go, oh no. And I was super excited and knowing as hell about it. I'm like, no, that's why it's amazing. It's tough for a reason, but you have to push through that tough part. This was right as Bloodborne came out, and he had bought Bloodborne and rage quit the first level because the first level in Bloodborne is harder than, it's like lower Undeadburg and Dark Souls. It's like hey, if you get through this, then you know what ride you're in for.
Oh man, really?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. There's sections of it that are pretty difficult, and they put really difficult stuff right before the boss. So if you die, you have to start all over. So you just get really used to that bitter pill of, this is the kind of game this is. If you don't like this, quit now. Go take the game back.
Oh no.
But I would just tell him over and over again to the point of probably being super annoying. I know I was super annoying about how he needed to power through it, and it would. I do that to other people. Some people get the game, they play it, and it clicks with them, and they love it. Like Jessie, she loves the game and is really into it, despite some ups and downs. We talked about earlier.
Jess just likes it because it's violent. She likes killing people.
Well, there's that too. Chopping a skeleton's head off is pretty satisfying.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong if people try it and they know they don't like it. That's totally fine. It's like I know Jess doesn't like Mario Maker. She doesn't like Mario games. It's not violent enough.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I had to kind of go through that and almost lose some real life friends over it.
Like Dark Souls, I don't understand the fandom around it. Like the game itself, I got to Capra Demon and beat him and quit because I was pushed to a point so much where I physically started crying because I was so frustrated and so angry with the game that it was so harsh. And like you were saying, like when you do die, you have to go back to the last bonfire that you rested at and fight your way back to the boss itself or wherever you got to, and then you died. And just that soul crushing moment of knowing that you're going to die and then realize that you can't just walk back to the boss and have another go. You have to fight your way through however many NPCs, peons, dogs, skeletons, whatever, and then get to the big fight. And again, there's no guarantee that you're gonna that could take you 20 minutes to get to the boss.
Yeah, and the question that I ask in this case is, when you got frustrated to the point of being so upset that you knew you were done, why did you keep going back to that boss? Why didn't you just stop right there and go, you know what, this game's not for me, and quit out after the 10th time? Why did you go push through 25 to 30? That's all I'm asking.
Because I was streaming it at the time, and I felt like because I'd gotten to that point of I invested so much flipping time in getting to this boss, and you guys were there watching me do it. I felt like if I think at one point I was about to give up, and I don't know if it was you, Krunnky, or someone else in chat, or a few of them were like, no, you can't give up. You've got to keep going. You'll do it. You're making progress. And that was the other thing. When it felt like you were making progress, like to use the example of the Capra Demon, like you have 2 dogs as well as the actual boss itself. The first time I went in, just instantly died. I had tips that I needed to kill the dogs first because they were the most annoying. They would corner you and just kill you. So a couple of times I would manage to kill one dog or maybe kill both dogs and then get killed by the actual boss. And then it would revert back to where I would just go back in and instantly die. So it didn't feel like I was making any progress.
Yeah, so the Capra Demon is infamous in the Soul series. There's probably the second most infamous boss in the game. The most infamous being the Bed of Chaos for a completely different reason. But the Capra Demon is, if you look at the history of how they made that game, they basically, most video games they'll take and they'll make a playthrough area, a playable area, and then they'll decorate around it. Dark Souls famously built a giant world and then carved a game out of the inside of it. So they built Undeadburg as just a computer model, and then they built Lower Undeadburg was just part of it. And they said, okay, now that we've got this big open world structure and we've got it running, we can run around in, let's start putting fences up and guide the player through it. Here's a bonfire, here's some enemies, here's a boss. And one of the things that they did, I think, was artificially gate the difficulty by doing some things that maybe if they had more time they wouldn't have done. The game is notoriously rushed, especially toward the end. There's an area called Lost Izalith that's all lava, and it is basically just full of copy paste monsters. There's no like, compared to the rest of the game, even there's no, like, obviously no thought put into it. That's why if you ever hear people talk about Dark Souls as a flawed masterpiece, it is, because it's they almost ran out of funding. The Miyazaki, the guy who now runs FromSoft, he got tasked with this game. They had Demon Souls, which we talked about earlier, was out, but it was barely got out the door, wasn't selling really well in the West. It was too hard. Japanese people Japanese market loved it. The Western market, it was more of a niche game, and they had a spiritual successor or sequel to Demon Souls, but they were going to make it open world. They're like, hey, let's make Demon Souls open world. And they decided that Sony wasn't going to front the money to have a Demon Souls 2, so they changed it to Dark Souls, and they made it multi-platform, released it on both consoles and PC. PC came later, but they had plans on doing it if enough people were interested in it. And I think one of the things that happened in their rushed testing of the area was people were like let down by the boss where Capra Demon was, so they made it just a little too difficult. And what they did is they put the hardest part about the Capra boss isn't any of the monsters. It's the small area.
Yeah.
You're fighting the camera. You're fighting the physics engine where you get blocked in by the dogs, and it's just the monster can really literally one shot you if he has a big swing. The Capra Demon, he's just a mob later on in the game. He's just a regular monster running around the Lost Izalith ruins. And if you, to be honest, when you go down there and fight him later, he's not difficult at all when you have room to work with. But when you're stuck in a closet with him and 2 dogs that can literally keep you from rolling out of danger, it's incredibly frustrating. So it's a little unfair to to the player, I think, to have that fight there. But I agree with whoever's rushed half-assed decision it was to leave it there, because the game gets severely more foreboding and oppressive shortly thereafter in the depths and then down into Blight Town. If I think what Dark Souls does by having the big demon and the asylum demon right off the bat is like, hey, if you don't like dying to bosses over and over again and running back to them from the blast bonfire, you might want to just quit now. And I think that's what one of the lessons that the first game I played from the Miyazaki A team at FromSoft since Dark Souls 1 was Bloodborne. And there's no question it's the true spiritual successor to Dark Souls, because it's some of the teaching the players the gameplay mechanics lessons are really honed well there. Like the first opening couple of levels of Bloodborne are amazing at teaching the player, this is how the game works, this is how frustrating it's going to be, here's the joy of finding a shortcut. And the reason I asked you about the Capra Demon success is, was there personal pride involved in it at all?
No.
You had no. Okay, so it was just basically to save face on stream, or to do it because your streamers you didn't want the streamers to be going, oh, you gave up your awards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like I remember you telling me like the bosses or any kind of fight in Dark Souls, you have this kind of point where you get to a point where it's like I was saying, you've invested so much time in trying to defeat this boss, and you've gone through 20-30 minutes of actually trying to get to it, and numerous attempts of trying to defeat it. And you were telling me about the rush that you get when you actually defeat it, and that never happened for me.
It was just relief.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't get the accomplishment out of it, or the endorphin rush of, yes, I did it, then this game is totally not for you, and I understand that.
Oh, good.
That doesn't mean I'm not going to give you shit about it still.
Never gonna live it down.
No, it's not living it down. I mean, look, I've rage quit and stopped playing plenty of games. It's not something to feel bad about or let people give you shit about. When I tell people that they should try to play it, it's because I want for them what I love so much about it, that fun. I've got 500 hours in it probably, and that when I share that with people, and I'm like, hey, you got to try it. You got to put yourself through this misery because you got to go through hell to get to heaven, right? That's the kind of the idea behind it. But if you just get the hell part and you don't get the heaven part, then absolutely just stay away from it.
Was that it on Dark Souls?
I mean, I've got 3 or 4 hours of Dark Souls left to talk about, but yeah, we should probably skip that.
So, Krunnky, you asked me I don't think I actually ever answered that particular question, but
yeah, why don't you answer that question for all the viewers?
Yeah, what would entice people to come watch me? I'm very friendly. If you want someone to talk to.
Wait! I just got a good idea. Sorry to interrupt, but let me give you this idea. How about you tell people why to come to my stream, and I tell people why to come to your stream?
Ooh, okay, that's better.
I turned that one on its head, didn't I?
Okay,
so normally right here, what we would do is we would ask our interviewee, talk about your stream. What would you say to entice people to come check you out? But I just had the thought occurred to me that what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you why you need to check out Cherry streams. And she could tell me, I'm talking to the audience here. And she can tell you why you should check out my streams. And we'll see how funny this actually is.
Yeah. The truth comes out.
Exactly. So what I really love about Cherry streams is I have a really low tolerance for entertainment while I'm at work, and that's when she streams.
Oh, good. Oh, thanks. I did not see that coming. Yeah.
No. The first time I ever saw you stream, I was not at work, so that was just made for cheap laughs.
All right. Thanks.
What's really fun about Cherry streams is she's very interactive with the audience. She chats people up. She I learn a lot about streaming from watching her because because I'm an asshole, I don't think of these questions, but she like remembers people's names, remembers what they told her yesterday, and asks for updates. She also is a very good gamer. She plays some retro games. I think I've seen her play Ocarina of Time. I've seen her play Zelda. I saw her play Zelda Link to the Past we talked about earlier. I've seen her stream Mario Maker for, I want to say, you're probably at 10,000 hours of that now, aren't you?
No, not that much.
But while she's whipping through these games, and she plays other than just Nintendo games, she played Sonic Mania recently. You knocked that out in what, 2-3 hours?
Yeah, it was about 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's always usually has a sunny disposition, is super nice and welcoming. Everyone's like everybody. Every once in a while, she gets frustrated with the game. I mean, I've never seen her break a headset, but I know she gets frustrated with games too. Speaking of which, I repaired my headset yesterday.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah, it didn't break the actual speaker, but the speaker broke off inside and was rattling, buzzing around.
No.
Tape
So
it
me and Gobby knew when you went quiet and you weren't responding. Like, yeah, he's just thrown something.
I'm much better than I used to be.
Yeah.
I haven't broken a keyboard in like 10 years. I call that progress.
Okay, on that point, if you guys want to go check out Krunnky, my impressions of his stream, sometimes ragey, which can be quite fun to watch. Probably not fun on his end, but if you want to see stuff get thrown, it's usually your headset, isn't it, that gets thrown? Or a controller?
But I got to really stop doing that unless I get can get a sponsorship deal from the headset company, and they can just give me a box of them. I can
you can do that. Yeah. But no, seriously, if you like variety games, at the moment both of us are on like a PUBG sort of kick. So you usually find us playing that with a couple of our friends. But again, similar to what Krunnky said about me, he's very interactive with his Twitch chat. So if you want to go say hi, he will always welcome you in. Yeah, you'll always be in a pretty good mood when you stream, because I think streaming makes you quite happy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Plus, if you come in and tell me to take my shirt off and tweak nipples, I might. That happened on a stream yesterday. That's the only reason I brought it up. I'll probably cut that out.
Please.
How do we end this thing? Thanks, Krunnky, for joining us today.
Did you just thank yourself? Oh, yeah.
That's the joke. See, my dad jokes are on fleek today. I just said on fleek.
Said on fleek. No,
I did. I just B-shiv rubbing off on me, the bastard.
Get out.
Is that an old terminology? Because that's like new to me.
No, it just sounds weird coming from you. That's like what 13-year-old kids say.
No, you hate me because I'm American.
Well, that too.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today.
Sorry, you need to do that again. I interrupted you then.
Why don't you do it? You got a better voice than me.
Oh, I do. Really? No.
Well, just according to every bit of feedback we've got so far.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I'm glad someone likes my voice anyway, because I don't.
No one likes their own voice.
Well, not particularly my voice, my accent. I'm not a big fan of. Oh, well, you want to wrap up?
I mean, unless you want to make it a 2-hour podcast, yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining me today, I guess, Krunnky.
Yeah, it was good. I'm glad we did this. I was kind of nervous when people said, "Oh, you guys should interview each other." I'm like, that's going to sound kind of hacky and cheesy, but I think like the people that we've interviewed so far, I feel really good about it afterwards. Yeah, there's definitely been positive feedback from the people that we have interviewed. That's all good. Well, as always, you can find me at twitch.tv/Krunnky. That's KRUNNKY. And you can find me at CherryCakeTV across the board. I'm on Twitter, Twitch. I think I'm on Instagram as well, but I don't particularly use it, so feel free to check it out. If you happen to find this podcast any other way than like iTunes or your podcasting app, you can also find us there. You can follow us, the podcast, on Twitter at GLY Podcast. We're also on Facebook.com/GLY Podcast. If you guys do check us out, please drop us a sub. Please rate or like the podcast, or all of 3. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Bye.